This is Moore College of Art and Design, an all-women's college set in Center City, Philadelphia. For this school, there are 2 dorms available for students, Stahl and Sartain Hall. Stahl Hall is located in connection to the main college building and can be accessed through a door nearby the school's dining hall. A sleek, functioning elevator is available from a short set of stairs to access Stahl's 5 living levels. In each suite, there are 2 rooms, for which they share a single bathroom. Provided here for students are 2 beds, central heating, air conditioning, a microwave, and a mini fridge. The housing deposit to live in Stahl as a full-time student is $250. Each floor has an RA, and on the very top floor of the building there is a 3-room penthouse with a built-in bathroom, a kitchen complete with microwave, stove, and refrigerator, and a TV with working cable. In contrast, let us now move to Sartain Hall, located on Cherry Street, a block away from Moore. Many rooms must be shared, but unlike Stahl, there are a good amount that don't require students to have roommates. Due to the nature of the building and the electrical wire in the street itself, Sartain cannot handle the power of having a boxed air conditioning unit in every single room, so the only air conditioners are located in the lounge and the RD's room, and a few select rooms on the first floor. Like Stahl, each room in Sartain contains a mini fridge, a microwave, a landline, and at least 1 bed. It's only $250 to live in this epic dorm building, just like Stahl. However, not everything is peaches and cream in either dorm. We held a survey for the general population in each living space. Here is a list of the complaints we received about Stahl Hall.
Do you have any more comments or concerns about Stahl Hall?
I have concerns about how lax many of the RAs are about known smokers, that they have evidence they smoke in the rooms. No one does anything. Weed smell on the 2nd and 3rd floor. Heat on when it's 70 degrees outside. Sink and shower doesn't drain well. RA issues. Remotes to TV in penthouse lost. Serious weed problem. 5th floor RA not showing up to meetings and removing the maintenance board for about 2 months. Sinks and showers both backing up. In general, RA being distant and unhelpful. I know I already said weed, but it's so f***ing obnoxious, lol. A room a ways down the hall has blasted music. Nothing ever gets done about it despite 24/7 courtesy hours. Previous room had issues with the electrical good out, and this room had issues with the heat not turning on in January. 2nd floor doesn't have any shelving, which is ridiculous.
Whoa, that doesn't sound too great, does it? Let's see what the folks living in Sartain have to complain about in comparison.
Do you have any more comments or concerns about Sartain Hall?
It feels like the bare minimum for a dorm. Things meet standards, but it's in no way comfortable. Some problems with my room were never solved, and when they were, it took weeks in order to fix them. It's filthy, the elevator barely works, my door doesn't lock and still hasn't been fixed, the bathrooms are always dirty, there's stuff growing in the grate of the elevator ceiling, it's never cleaned properly, the edges of the floor are always covered in dust and hair, half the amenities that were promised aren't here, cable, single rooms, it's overcrowded, and gets hot as all hell during the summer and early fall, making it barely livable during that time. Hell oven, please fix it, it's a fire hazard. It's a hellhole. Fix the hole, and please give us a working oven. Fix the oven, be honest about fire drill times, fix the vending machines. Air conditioning is a basic human right, and it is inhumane to cram 2 students into a single-sized coat closet of a room. We have no AC, which is hell in the summer. I feel like I live in a shoebox. I feel bad for the people who have 2 people in the same size room that I am in, because there's barely enough room for me, let alone 2 people. There's such a major difference between just meeting the standards of regulations and actually providing a sufficient living space for your students. We're overcrowded, our oven doesn't work, we aren't allowed to do work in our rooms, but over the weekends there are very few spaces for students to do studio work. On top of that, having Stahl be air conditioned and Sartain not creates a significant disparity between the students in those buildings. Overall, the only positive experience I've had is the washing machines. Where's your money going, Moore College of Art? I've been stuffed in a 7 by 15 foot space with another person with no AC and not enough room to store my There was 1 small desk, 2 dressers, a wardrobe, a bunk bed, a microwave and fridge all in that room. There was barely 4 feet of walking space. I cannot emphasize how much of a hell living in that room was. I had no privacy and no personal space. Some people's windows don't lock. Also, don't lie to the people who tour here about there being cable in the lounge. I'm so sick of prospective students thinking that Sartain is nice when it's anything but. I don't feel like the Res Life staff actually care about us at all. Let me out. Also, putting 2 people in single rooms next year will be literally unlivable, okay? This sucks. My experience in Sartain was not a great one. I was put into single dorm with another person for over a month. The first few months are hot as hell. which is not an issue, but having to share such a small space with another person was terrible for the both of us. I stayed in the lounge most of the time so she could have personal space. One big thing that was advertised for Sartain was the floor lounges and studios, which they removed. I was very upset by this, and so were a lot of people. The school over-enrolled and took away spaces that would have been beneficial to our experience here and more. We now have no studios in the dorm building, and we are not allowed to work in the lounge or our rooms, so we have to walk over to the main building to do any studio work, which is absolutely ridiculous. Only having one lounge is not great for everyone in the building. People are upset when there is a group of people in there. It is hard to have over 10 people in there. There are no spaces for students to hang out aside from this and tiny rooms, unless they want to go to the main building. Sartain getting remodeled just so more students can be squished in there is so terrible. I really feel like the school does not care about our comfort at all. Some things are in their control, but I feel they simply do not care, and it makes me feel pretty terrible spending so much money to live in a barely habitable building. Another thing that is an issue with me is that so much money was put into the library, when I thought it was just fine before, and the resources they had there were sufficient. I feel like they did this to improve how the school looks to outsiders. Both dorm buildings are not worth what we pay for, and they chose to remodel something that was barely used, and is still barely used. The oven we have in the building does not work properly. And many people do not know about it, and it is a terrible fire hazard. The school really cares much about not having things in rooms that are fire hazards, but they continue to keep the hellfire oven in the kitchen. The remodeling in the basement is pretty terrible too. It was very messy, nails, drywall, mold, metal, etc., everywhere. The condition of the building is just not worth what we pay for to come here. It's awful, and I hope future students get better treatment for housing, but that I doubt.
Jesus, that's a lot, isn't it? Before we tackle all of that seemingly incessant hostility, let me address that even though there seemed to be many more responses to our Sartain survey, there were actually the same amount of responses to be had for both. Every response that was not included from stall residents declined to answer or simply said they hadn't suffered any problems. As for the complaint about the penthouse remotes being lost and not working, I myself investigated to see if they were correct, and it seemed as though 2 out of the 3 TVs had functioning remote controls, only one having the batteries missing. How strange. Also conducted in the survey was a measurement of how happy the general student body was with their experiences in the dorms. The graphs speak for themselves, so I'll just leave them right here. The elevators installed are clearly very modern, with a digital aesthetic as well as a scanner that only allows those with an ID to use. With each floor's arrival, there is a voice that tells you which floor you are on, but in comparison, Sartain's elevator feels a bit lackluster. Observe as the guardrail can easily be torn off with just a little bit of force. To accompany that clear safety hazard is just how frequently Sartain's elevator tends to do this. It's typically expected here that Sartain's elevator breaks every other month, as everything seems to break much quicker in Sartain than in Stall. For a fine example, let's enter Sartain's lounge. Here you will find a table that seemingly broke for no reason. You have to understand that the tabletop on this thing weighs 1,000,000 pounds. Yes, it may seem like I'm making a mountain out of a molehill here. After all, it was only a few screws loose that had fallen out, which had caused this to happen, but it still went unnoticed and unreported until someone got hurt. As for Sartain's oven, which was so frequently mentioned in the survey feedback, we didn't have an opportunity to film how it burns any food you put in it 12 times as fast, but here's a good look at the first floor's kitchen in general, and how precariously the microwave has been perched. It was mentioned that some of the windows didn't lock, but neither do some of the doors here, including a friend of mine's, as well as my own. My friend's door can only be locked from the outside, and mine can only be locked from within. I've contacted the person in charge of housing named Kimberly Fox about this issue a month ago, and even though I was personally assured that it was in fact fixed, it still, obviously, has not been. Speaking of my friend's room, we used it to demonstrate just how thin the walls and ceilings can be here in Sartain Hall. Observe as another friend of mine, who lives above her, walks in high heels. The alley right next to Sartain is lined with fruit trees, and at a glance this seems like a delightful alternate pathway for students to take on their way to classes. Unfortunately, it comes with a catch. When the fruit falls and rots during the late summer, when all students and freshmen return, it's the heat that combines with a rotting smell that haunts every Sartain resident because of the berries that fall. Fortunately, this is a very minor thing, but it's something to be aware of. Every year when dorms are decided for freshmen and old men alike, a lottery system is what's used to determine who gets first pick of the rooms, and usually the numbers given are randomly handed out. With such a disparity between dorms, it's no wonder that when asked where both Stahl and Sartain residents would prefer to live next year, that these were the results. And yes, these are two different tests. They did amount to the same exact vote. Can you really blame them? Living space is a very big concern to everyone living here on campus, seemingly except for the staff in charge of who goes where. Evidence to this can be pointed out everywhere, from how the basement is currently being renovated into one large living space, to how in every hallway since spring break ended, we found cabinets lined up for usage. This is presumably to be used in the larger rooms, which used to be every floor's lounge space, but this year the administration has decided to put double the amount of students into each of those dorms. And honestly, I wish them luck.